Dive deeper into the origins of the most infamous rap group of all time in the second episode of our animated docuseries. Today in part 2, we're covering the years 82 to 84. Introducing how Ice Cube caught Dr. Dre's attention when he was only 14, MC Ren's childhood, Eazy-E's past before founding Ruthless Records, and the first releases from the World Class Wreckin Cru as a music group. If you're just tuning in, don't worry, you're right on time. I just recommend checking out part 1 by clicking the top right corner of your screen. But if you want to catch up later, here's a quick recap of what happened. We saw how Dre spun records at his mom's house parties when he was just 4, and how that passion grew into a neighborhood DJ crew that he started with his childhood friend, Eazy-E. That same Eazy who had a wild prankster side and dropped out of school early. And of course, we caught a glimpse of Cube's early creative spark. We also stepped inside the opening of Eve After Dark, the mythic club run by Lonzo, where Yella first got engaged as a DJ in the early 80s, followed by Dre in 1982. In this first series of episodes, we'll dive deep into the members' childhoods, the formation of the group, and the events leading up to the release of their debut album. Even though the infamous rap group is known worldwide, their origins are often misunderstood. We're uncovering little-known stories and honoring the key players who often get overshadowed, like Krazy Dee, whose role in the early days of N.W.A. earned him the title of the group's forgotten Hispanic member, or the D.O.C., whose journey from Dallas to the West Coast helped shape Eazy's sound and the groups into something radio-friendly. And let's not forget Arabian Prince, whose contributions during the group's early days deserve to be remembered. Now, let's start in late 82, right where we left off in the first episode. We kick things off with a young Ice Cube. He's 13, living in South Central, and about to meet someone who would change the path of his life. A new kid had just moved into the neighborhood, someone who shared the same obsession with this new thing called hip-hop, and whose big cousin just happened to be Dr. Dre. He went by the name Sir Jinx. At first, Cube wasn't even thinking about hip-hop. He had a little crush on Jinx's sister, but once he found out he was a b-boy just like him, that was it. They clicked instantly and started hanging out all the time. It was a bond that helped Cube get through a tragic event from the year before when he lost his older sister. Jinx was already a die-hard fan of the emerging hip-hop culture, breakdancing, graffiti, DJing. He was all in. He'd even asked Cube's dad for pieces of cardboard so he could practice his moves. But Jinx wasn't just breaking. He had 2 turntables and a mixer set up in his room, already training to become a DJ. Not long after they met, Jinx told Cube something that left him stunned. Dr. Dre, the master of mixology, was his big cousin. Cube already knew Dre as one of the top DJs in the city and was eager to meet him. But at the time, Dre was still living in Compton at his mom's house, so they had to wait for the right moment, for Dre to come down to South Central and visit Jinx. And that meeting didn't happen right away. But don't worry, we'll break down that moment in just a few minutes. Around that same time, Dre's mother met Warren Griffin. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he's the father of a young Warren G. Dre and Tyree took their 12-year-old stepbrother Warren under their wing, showing him around the neighborhood. But being from Long Beach, Warren G had a tough time at first. Kids in Compton taunted him for not being from their side of the city. Dre and Tyree made sure he learned how to defend himself. A few years later, Warren G would introduce his best friend to his older stepbrother, a young rapper who went by the name Snoop Rockski, but who would go on to become famous as Snoop Doggy Dogg. As part of a desegregation busing program, Cube started taking the bus to the San Fernando Valley in junior high. For him, it was a culture shock, an eye-opener. Before that, he had never really measured how he was living compared to kids in other areas. In the Valley, he saw families that were a lot wealthier than his. He always considered his childhood happy, but for the first time, he realized just how dangerous his neighborhood was, especially compared to the Valley, where life felt much safer. Cube played fullback on the football team, but music was his real passion. Not long after starting high school in the fall of 1983, he wrote his first rap in a typing class at just 14 years old, in 9th grade, after being challenged by his friend Kiddo. To this day, he still remembers the first lines. "My name is Ice Cube, and I want you to know I'm not Run DMC or Curtis Blow." After months of sharpening his craft, writing rhymes, battle rapping at lunchtime, and building confidence, Cube found his groove with the help of his friend Sir Jinx. They'd spend hours at Jinx's house, where Jinx taught him how to really rap on beat. While Jinx was practicing to become a DJ, Cube was focused on mastering the art of being an MC. As Cube remembers, it was a whole different challenge to stay on time with the beat, especially when all he'd known was rapping into the air or over someone's weak beatbox. One day, hyped about some new lyrics, Cube came home and went straight to his childhood friends to see if they were down to start a rap group. Jinx had his DJ set up in his bedroom. Katie could spit just like him. And then there was Barry, a little older, knew how to rhyme too, but more importantly, he had a car, so he could drive them to talent shows. And Cube, he'd go on to write most of the group's lyrics. And just like that, around 84, the foundation of the Stereo Crew was set. One thing that later impressed Dre was how fast the Stereo Crew could lay down tracks. A group that would later be renamed CIA under Dre's guidance when Barry left to join the World Class Wreckin Cru to replace DJ Clientele and took on the alias Shakespeare. That name change? It stood for Criminals in Action, later flipped to Crew in Action. Sound familiar? It should. CIA sparked the whole acronym-style group naming because not long after, N.W.A was born. But that was just a quick flash forward. Now let's take it back to the years 83 and 84. And let's dive into the backstory Ice Cube shared about the origin of his rap name. Cube said he got his name when he was around 13 years old, thanks to his older brother, Clyde. I used to try to talk to his girlfriends when they called, and he got tired of it, Cube explained. Back then, when people wanted to get rid of an old refrigerator, they'd dump it on the curb and wait for someone to come pick it up. So Clyde got an idea and decided to mess with his little brother, joking that if he locked him in the freezer long enough, he'd turn into an ice cube. But before settling on Ice Cube, he first went by Purple Ice, inspired by his two favorite artists at the time, Ice-T and Prince, and as a nod to his favorite basketball team, the Lakers, and their signature purple color. Time went on. A couple of months passed. Cube was about to turn 15 when one day, Jinx hit him up. "Yo, we're doing a barbecue at my crib, and Dre is here." Cube didn't waste a second. He hung up, grabbed all his notebooks, and sprinted down the street as fast as he could. At the time, you gotta realize, Dre was 4 years older than Cube. At just 14, Cube was still a kid, and the last thing Dre probably wanted to do was sit through a rap session while trying to eat. But Jinx wasn't about to let the opportunity slip away. After begging Dre a few times, he finally gave in. He checked them out once he was done eating. When Jinx told Cube that Dre was actually coming to listen, they both lit up, excited, nervous, anxious, all at once. The wait felt endless. Then finally, Dre stepped into the garage. The wait was over. It was time for Cube to prove himself. Jinx got behind the turntables and started mixing. Cube took a deep breath, grabbed the mic, and dropped some of his best rhymes, on beat, perfect tempo, no hesitation. Dr. Dre was shocked. This 14-year-old kid could out-rap most of the rappers he knew at the time. He immediately recognized raw talent in the teenager standing in front of him. To this day, Ice Cube still looks back at that moment as the greatest of his entire career. "The best moment of my career was meeting Dr. Dre for the first time. Nothing happens without that meeting. Thank God he came back there and heard me rap, or I'd never be in the equation." History is rarely made at a backyard barbecue, but a few tense hours in a South Central garage sparked something that would go on to define an entirely new genre of music. Around that same time, just a bit earlier in '83, Lonzo, inspired by Run DMC, after inviting them to perform at Eve After Dark, his club, and influenced by Dre and Yella, led the World Class Wreckin Cru to transition from club DJs to recording artists. Just to quickly clarify what we said in part 1 concerning Lonzo's club Eve After Dark, we know that the policy of the club was 18 and over, but as Lonzo stated himself, it wasn't the law, and it was on his call to let younger people in, as long as they dressed correctly. And that's how a young Dre could regularly get in and got offered a spot as a DJ in late '82. Check out the first episode if you want to see how he earned his spot. Lonzo decided to create his own record label, Crew Cut Records, so the group could release their first singles. Their first track, Slice, spearheaded by Yella. Then came Juice and Crew Groove, and then Surgery, which would become the group's first real hit, selling 50,000 copies within the Compton area alone. Scratched and written by Dr. Dre, the song released in '84 marked his debut as a rapper. But if you listen it today, the track leaned more toward what we'd now call party electro music, as it was representative of the West Coast underground scene back then, before Ice-T and N.W.A made its shift to what we call now gangsta rap, but originally referred as reality rap. People don't know, but cursing on records was a huge novelty in the mid-'80s. Special shout out also to pioneers like Schoolie D, Mixmaster Spade, and Toddy T. Now let's introduce MC Ren. Yeah, I know he's often overshadowed, but don't worry, we're not gonna sleep on him. Born in 1969, Lorenzo Patterson was raised in Compton by both of his parents and lived with his siblings, right around the corner from Eazy's house. In 1983, as he entered high school, Ren started developing a passion for hip-hop, which was just beginning to gain popularity on the West Coast. Delving into the culture, the first tape he bought was one by Run DMC. He later became a fan of Grandmaster Melly Mel and began writing his first rhymes under the name Master Ren, before switching it up to MC Ren. He and his friend MC Chip used a little tape recorder to lay down their first bars. During high school, Ren formed a few different rap groups, and that's how he ended up connecting with DJ Train, whom Ren would later recommend to Eazy when he needed a DJ to tour with his newly signed female rap group, JJ Fad. He also introduced his friend DJ Speed, who he'd known since grade school. Speed had gotten into DJing after being inspired by the high-powered DJ crew, the same neighborhood crew from the early 80s led by Dre and Eazy, which we broke down in part 1. Speed had always dreamed of working with them. One day, Ren brought him with him to meet Eazy-E, and they clicked instantly. Speed quickly became a roadie and was originally lined up to be JJ Fad's DJ, but eventually became the D.O.C's official tour DJ. Now, some of you might be wondering, how did Eazy-E and Ren end up connecting despite the age gap? Yes, Ren is the same age as Ice Cube. Just to give you some perspective, Cube and Ren are about 4 to 5 years younger than Dre, Eazy-E, and Arabian Prince. Eazy was close friends with Ren's older brother, and every time Eazy would stop by to kick it with him, Ren, the younger brother, was always hanging around. As Ren got older and started hanging out more around his neighborhood, Eazy began taking him under his wing. In need of money, Ren and Chip briefly dipped into the local street life, but it didn't take long before they shifted their focus back to music. Well, officially anyway. Eazy already knew his lil homie could rap. That's why in early '87, while Ren was still in high school, he signed him as one of the first solo acts on Ruthless Records. But Ren's role quickly evolved. When Ice Cube left for a year to study in Arizona, Ren stepped up writing and rapping on Eazy-E's debut album. With his sharp storytelling and versatile flow, switching effortlessly from smooth to aggressive, he exceeded expectations and impressed both Eazy and Dre. That's when they officially brought him into the group. Yeah, I know the release dates on a lot of legit websites say the group's debut album came out before Eazy's solo debut. But that's not true. Eazy Does It dropped before Straight Outta Compton. The members have confirmed it in multiple interviews, yet somehow, most of these sites still haven't updated it. But don't worry, fam. We're gonna break down all those events in the next parts. As mentioned earlier, we're telling this story chronologically. And right now, in this second episode, we're still covering the years 82 to 84. We just felt the need to drop a quick flash forward. Otherwise, we knew we were gonna get crushed in the comments again for not mentioning MC Ren's involvement enough. And yes, we read all the comments and wanted to thank y'all for the positive reactions to the first episode. If you've got suggestions for future episodes or ideas for the next docuseries, don't hesitate to drop them. We really do take your feedback into account. Now, let's switch back to Eazy-E. Since he had dropped out of high school and started a DJ group with Dr. Dre in the early 80s, his path took a different turn. Not long after, he was drawn to the allure of the street life, starting with small-time ventures before working his way up to becoming a major player in town. If you're wondering how he leveled up, one day, his first cousin, Horace, decided to take him under his wing, showing him the ropes of his business. He was a pharmacist, if you get what I'm saying. To him, Eazy-E wasn't just family. He was the only one he could trust. The two of them were really tight. Long before, when they were just little boys in Compton, they started out building bikes, skateboarding, and playing marbles. Just two cousins trying to carve out some joy in a rough city. Special shout out to Keontra Hall for bringing this up in the comment section. Then one day in '84, his cousin tragically passed away. I'll let you find out how. But chances are, you already have an idea. And Eazy, he was the only one who knew where his cousin's savings was. Not long after, he became one of the most well-connected figures in town. Eazy-E acted like a real businessman. Let's put it this way, he knew all the top players, and that gave him a pass to move wherever he wanted. But Horace's passing did more than elevate Eazy's status. It made him rethink everything and really start questioning his lifestyle. He knew where that path usually led, and he was ready for something different. This tragic loss served as a real eye-opener. So he started putting money aside, not just to leave that life behind, but to build something bigger, something he and his cousin used to talk about. And now it was time to bring that vision to life, a record label. Ruthless Records. All right, fam, that wraps up today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Now please don't grab me by the neck this time. I know I still haven't talked about Arabian Prince, the D.O.C, or Krazy Dee. But don't worry, I'm going to break down their stories in the next parts. All the key players will be introduced when it makes the most sense, and none of them will be slept on. It's just that the group's origin story is so dense, especially as we get into the mid-80s, that introducing everyone at once would just make things messy and hard to follow. So I'll bring them in like chapters, with little flashbacks that showcase their background, just like I did with Ren in this episode. In the next episode, we'll explain how Eazy-E got back in touch with Dre, after picking up one of the street mixtapes that Dre and Cube were selling to Steve Yano at the Rhodium swap meet. We'll take a deep dive into the creation of Ruthless Records, the introduction of Arabian Prince, the group's formation, and their earliest releases. So stay tuned and hit the notification bell, as the third episode will drop in the following weeks. And for short animated stories and classic rap news, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Oh yeah, one last thing, fam. Sorry if those little ads caught you off guard. What you just seen pop up, that's our brand new store. And our collection, Heritage Blocks, is all about paying homage to the iconic places that birthed the global movement. Every bit will go right back into the next episodes and future projects. Big love to everyone who stayed till the end. Peace out, and see you real soon for episode 3.